Well, there's another strange story out about the Department of Homeland Security. The agency has announced a requirement for armed protective security officer services at various locations throughout Minnesota and Wisconsin to the tune of $19 million. And what's more, DHS says, quote, the project will have a requirement for the contractor to have a top secret facility clearance by the start of performance. Now, in light of all that has come out about DHS stockpiling hollow point ammunition and other sorts of bullets and full auto assault rifles and purchasing checkpoint booths and retrofitting armored vehicles, a lot of people are asking, what is going on now? What is this all about? Is it for a legitimate purpose? And if so, what is that purpose? So we're going to try to get some answers today from Texas Congressman Louie Gohmert. He's also vice chair of the Judiciary Subcommittee on Crime, Terrorism, and Homeland Security. And it's so wonderful to talk to you, Congressman. Thanks so much for being with us.
Great to talk to you, Janet. Thank you, and I appreciate the work you've done on this issue. I tell you, there's just a lot of things that continue to be unanswered by the Department of Homeland Security, and I use that term loosely because, as Colburn has pointed out, Senator Tom Colburn, the department is wasting money right and left. They're disorganized, and they've spent supposedly $90 billion on border security, and the border is not secured at all. Some estimates are around 40% or so. And so this report about new efforts in Wisconsin in that area, it makes no sense whatsoever. Now we know, there are, I don't know, maybe they're concerned about the border in that area. If they know some things we don't know, it would sure be nice to hear that. But I keep demanding answers to what was reported in December of last year in the Egyptian newspaper back when they had their Muslim Brotherhood guy Morsi as president.
Yes.
They were reporting that 6 of the top people in the administration were Muslim brothers, and they were very proud of that. And I've been asking for years about Homeland Security's placement of people like a guy named Louie Gohmert, who's here in Texas, and she is initially had him on her countering violent extremism working group, and then promoted him to the top Homeland Security Advisory Council and gave him a classified clearance, and we knew he downloaded some classified material, and she promised me she would investigate that, and it's clear now she never did. They never even talked to the reporter that reported he had shopped his classified information to national media, and yet she sat there and lied and said that she hadn't even checked into that at all. So I'm just giving you some background, which makes me very suspicious of anything that Homeland Security says they're going to be doing. They're still working with and taking calls and information from CARE, although the Council on American Islamic Relations, I read, recently changed from CAIR, C-A-I-R, to WTF.
Yes.
And then, of course, CAIR and ISNA both. The president of ISNA, Muslim brother Imam Majid, he's welcome in the White House almost any time. He leads in prayers there at the White House, of Muslim prayers, especially ending Ramadan. We know he's done that. And he gives the president advice on speeches, as he did the one a couple of years ago, I know, from right before Netanyahu was to arrive. And so when you know they're getting this kind of bad advice, and of course both Homeland Security certainly didn't secure us from the Boston bombing, and it turned out the FBI had a heads up from Russia that the Tsarnaevs had been radicalized. And when I asked the director of the FBI, it turns out they had not even been to the mosque where the Tsarnaevs attended, and then the FBI director didn't even know that the mosques were started by the Islamic Council of Boston, that was started by a guy named Alamoody. He knew exactly who Alamoody was because the FBI got him put in prison
Right.
for 24 years for helping fund terrorism. So I'm just giving all this background to listeners so they can understand that hopefully they should be as skeptical of Homeland Security and the Justice Department as I think you and I are.
Well, I agree with you, and all the things that you've mentioned, we've talked about a lot on the show as well, Ella Bieri and all the rest that you've talked about, all very, very important things. But, we've had a lot of people out there saying they're taking note of the 1.6 billion rounds of, in part, hollow point ammunition, which is to kill people, not for target practice. You've had
most ranges don't let you use hollow points on their range.
Right.
Destructive of the target. So that made no sense. And I have asked folks on Homeland Security if they're, what is the reason for that? And I'm talking about the Committee on Homeland Security in the House. And they seem satisfied. Well, apparently, they just have to get this much ammunition when they're buying for all the different departments. But, Janet, that does not make sense. And I don't have answers on what they're doing regarding the report that you mentioned, but it sure piques my interest, and I want to. We get back in session on Tuesday, and I will be demanding answers because that's outrageous. They can't even protect our borders, and now, I mean, if that's something that's going to protect the borders, that's one thing, but some kind of secret security force is the very thing that the United States is never supposed to have. We're just not supposed to be doing that. But until we get enough members of Congress stirred up over the things that I've been preaching about, then we're not likely to get answers. And the way you get their attention is start cutting funding until you get answers. Some in the Senate say they're not going to be voting for any judicial appointees until they get answers about Benghazi. But those are the kind of things that we have to do to make Homeland Security and this administration accountable. But with Homeland Security, I mean, they're not seeking any more nominees to be confirmed by the Senate. So the Constitution anticipates what Congress will do in order to effectuate proper oversight. We will start cutting funding to things till we get answers.
Well,
people say we're in the House, we don't have that much control. Yeah, we do. Nothing gets funded unless we give them the money. We have to agree to the money being funded or they don't get it.
Yeah, no, absolutely right. And that's exactly what the American people need, because I'll tell you, Congressman, people are really worried. They're adding up all of these stories that have come out. You've had the president himself saying as a candidate, talking about a civilian national security force, and people say, oh, that's just conspiratorial. Well, he said it. And now we have all this ammo buildup and armored vehicles, which were used for the counterinsurgency in Iraq. The question, people,
if you go back to Obamacare, I mean, obviously it wasn't about just only about health care. I called attention to page, I think it was 13, 12, and 13 of the original two-volume set on Obamacare, but the provisions in there for the president's own commissioned and non-commissioned officer corps. And I've continued to ask questions, what is this for? It says it's for international health crises, but then it doesn't include the word health when it talks about national emergencies.
Wow.
So you go, and I've asked, what kind of training are they getting? It provides in Obamacare that this commissioned and non-commissioned officer corps will be trained, but I want to know, are they using weapons to train, or are they being taught to use syringes and healthcare items? But we've got no clear answers on that. So you couple that with this kind of news, it is very disturbing.
Well, as far as the money, you make a really good point that the House has the power of the purse there, but it's strange that the president himself has not been questioned more plainly by the media. I guess none of us should be surprised by that, but given the case after case where we've seen DHS doing strange things. I think also of the 2009 report they put out on right-wing extremism. We've seen and we've seen those reports about calling the American Family Association a hate group and things like that, and Army training sessions. And especially Christians are looking at this and saying, gee, I hope my mind isn't going in a direction that's actually seeming that it's going. And people don't want to think that way and seem conspiratorial, but it's odd that they will not answer questions.
Well, but you get back to reporters. I think the reason that they're afraid to ask the tough questions about these kind of things is that they're afraid that all of their colleagues will immediately turn on them and saying, "Oh, you're another right-wing nut. You see a conspiracy everywhere." I don't see conspiracies everywhere. I just see really stupid moves being made by this administration. Whether it's to support the massively infused al-Qaeda rebels in Syria, or pushing for Gaddafi's removal by rebels that we knew included al-Qaeda, and now they're wanting to bring over Libyans. We don't even have the people that killed our ambassador, and yet now they're wanting to bring over Libyans and teach them to fly airplanes at the U.S. On U.S. soil, with U.S. dollar. You just go, who? How stupid can you be? And we keep doing these things. And then I read today that Israel is extremely concerned about the kind of deal that's being offered by Secretary Kerry to Iran. And when I told Secretary Kerry that had met with people in the Middle East who are extremely concerned because they've seen the U.S. throw one ally under the bus after another, and they're wondering if they could be next. He wanted to know who specifically was I talking about. So that's exactly what they don't want you to know.
Right, exactly
They're
right.
worried about that.
Yeah, well.
And they've got good reason to be. We keep catering to our enemies and throwing our allies under the bus. But it's still a mystery. This move by the Department of Homeland Security, and we really need to get some answers. And so we'll be sending a letter, and hopefully we can get lots of House members to sign on.
Well, terrific. We've got to run, but Congressman Louie Gohmert, thank you so much, not only for talking to us today, but also for looking into this, because you're doing a great public service. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's a real pleasure.